I always find it very difficult to speak or say anything after Dr. Njenga. Unfortunately, he seems to read my mind. I'm not schizophrenic, but he seems to read my mind. And I think in his presentation, he did read my mind. My presentation was supposed to be, or is supposed to be, on medical advisory committee. The medical advisory committee is the main function is clinical governance. Whatever it is, most of you are slightly above 30. And the important thing here is that we have been very privileged. Privileged in the sense that you come up with an idea, and the ideas are normally very difficult. And visions are normally very difficult. And then some of us have been fortunate that we came up with an idea and we can be witnesses of the idea. To tell you the truth, if I was a patient, I would not shy in being admitted here. I will not shy. Because it is the type of dream that we had about 30 years ago. There are some words that you use here, probably you do not know how they came up. Bustani. Has anybody do you know what Bustani is? Not from Google, but do you know what Bustani is? Yeah? There's a word called Bustani, and this branch is called Bustani, right? There is a meaning for it. Recovery in dignity, right? I think some of you just talk of recovery in dignity, but it may not mean a lot of sense to you. And then there is another word that the chairman used called stigma. Stigma, some of you may not appreciate or may have not gone through what stigma is. Because some of us have gone through stigma as providers of mental health, right? And it is real that mental health or mental illnesses have been stigmatized throughout, both for the patients and for the carers of patients. If you go to any of you, the people who have trained in psychiatry locally and have been to Mathare Hospital, the medical registrar's houses were within Mathare Hospital, within. And that my house as a registrar was opposite Ward 3 house. And what then happened, I was so stigmatized that I couldn't even tell my girlfriend where I was living. That is as bad as the stigma was. I'm saying all of this so that you may be able to appreciate where we come from and where we want you to reach. And we want you to have dreams now that you will see 30 years or whatever years and see, are those dreams, have they been achieved or not been achieved? These words we are talking about, like recovery with dignity, they did not come out of the blue. They came out of brainstorming meetings. And we had lots of brainstorming meetings where some of these words did come from, in a very interesting way. And where the word recovery with dignity, the sense that the phrase recovery with dignity came. It is one of those places that we used to have brainstorming meetings, and we came with the dream. Now, the dream must be seen within a context. There were the people, and also the context of what we were dealing with. The context of what we were dealing with is mental health. And mental health at that time was extremely stigmatized. You are not stigmatized. Some of us have gone through stigma, in the sense that, Frank, you will remember that in our early days, when anybody referred a patient to a psychiatrist, referral, a patient who has 100% psychiatric problems lands in a general practitioner's clinic or in a surgeon's clinic, and they feel this one needs psychiatric help, and they say, refer to Dr. Okonji or refer to Dr. Njeng. The patient will say, no, I'm not there. I'm not like the ones that they see. So the stigma was big. And most patients, doctors used to tell us that, sorry, we know this person has a psychiatric problem, but they don't want to see you. So what you do, tell us what we can do for them without them seeing you. And they couldn't manage. And my office is written consultant psychiatrist. So anybody who comes there and lines in front of them, and people line up. Now they start lining up from 6 o'clock in the morning. Anybody who comes to line up there must know that they are coming to see a psychiatrist and they have a psychiatric problem. Nowadays it is even better, because you ask them, why have you decided to come and see me? And they will tell you, I have Googled. I've Googled, and all these symptoms I have are psychiatric problems, so I want to see you. A number of them are referred. Nowadays, patients are not refusing to be referred to psychiatric, so we are extremely stigmatized. Frank did mention the history of psychiatric, the history of mental health services worldwide. And it has come from far. And wherever it has come from, there has been a lot of stigma, a lot of stigma. And the stigma was that it is an area that people didn't know much. It is an area that there was witchcraft, there was all these other things explaining hallucinations, and so on and so forth. So there was a lot of stigma. And the development, you know very well that is initially the management of people with mental illnesses was extremely brutal. Sometimes people, the hallucinations and delusions were supposed to be demons. And the answer and the prescription was that you are supposed to be flogged or caned until the demons go away, and so on and so forth. So it was horrible. It became better when the institutions or the asylums were built. They were more humane, because then people were being managed in a humane way. But still not humane, because they were tired, they were very dirty, really they were bad places. And hence, of course, Frank has told you about Mathare Hospital, how it started. Again, as an asylum. By then, we were under colonial government. It was an asylum. And that is what was all over the place. And therefore, it meant in those early years that if one was mentally ill, the only place you could be admitted was an asylum, which was in Mathare Hospital. So if you came from Seme or from Kisumu, then you are admitted in Mathare Hospital. It therefore meant that you would stay there until you die. Of course, a number of people then stayed at Mathare Hospital, and Mathare Hospital became congested with people that they could do nothing about. At that time, then people came up with an idea of decongestion in Gilgil. And we had a facility in Gilgil, which for patients we could not trace, they have been in Mathare Hospital for 30 years, the patient thought they were dead and so on. So they were then decanted to Gilgil. In the 70s or 60s, in the 70s, then nurses were trained to be able to become psychiatric doctors. At that point, what are called psychiatric units was started. And we had psychiatric units in Kakamega, we had a psychiatric unit in Nakuru, in Muranga, we had a psychiatric unit in Mombasa, the place where Port Reitz is, and so on. And we thought that that was a better thing. We are going to treat patients near their homes. But if you see the conditions, and Frank has described the conditions of those units, they were custodial, they were put somewhere very remote, no doctor ever tended to them, and so on and so forth. Extremely stigmatized, right? As an intern, I was posted to Kakamega, where I did my internship. And Kakamega was one of the places where there was the psychiatric unit. And since it was started, no doctor ever stepped in that psychiatric unit. I'm only saying so that you can understand the environment that we were brought in, the environment that when we started to think that, is this the way we want our mental health services to be? It cannot be this way. It must change. Some of us had to go and train overseas, so we did. And then after training, of course, coming back was not lucrative, you know. A number of us did not come back. They actually stayed and continued staying there. Some of us did the hard thing and came back. So here we had Frank, you had Dr. Whitty, myself, and so on. And we wanted to provide psychiatry of a different type. I was a medical superintendent once in Mathare Hospital. And my stay in Mathare Hospital was not very easy. First of all, I wanted to improve the services, not only of the patients who are there, but also of the staff. If you know the people who worked in Mathare Hospital, you know where this place is, you know where Muthaiga Primary School is. I discovered that at Muthaiga, near Muthaiga Primary School, there was a land there where the first medical superintendent or medical doctors like Karothas, they lived there near, in Muthaiga now, and it was still vacant. Then, being the Luo that I was, I went and fenced it, and then put to say this is mine. Then put an askari to be living there. Then I went to the minister and said, now I want the documents of this land of mine because I want to put doctors' flats there. And I followed and I followed and I followed until when I finally reached the Ministry of Lands, and the secretary there told me, Dr. Okonji, are you following your land or what is your problem? The next thing I heard, somebody had put a tower block there. I did not provide services that I wanted at Mathare Hospital, to tell you the truth. It was very difficult. I always went to the ministry to do my budget. That budget was always slashed. When Frank went to work at the university, when Owiti was also working at the university, and when I was also working with government, we realized that we cannot provide this type of services. At that time is when we decided that, look, we have to do something different. And this was the conception of Chiromulin. It was to provide services with dignity, which we have tried to form. I had what is called the Medical Advisory Committee in this hospital. I did work out when I became the chairman. I did work out the terms of reference. And all the terms of reference were towards clinical governance. All the terms of reference was to improve services here to such an extent that you cannot find them anywhere in the world. You do not know that we even went and benchmarked with some of the best places in the world, really, on how to do it here. The CMEs and all those things are part of what Medical Advisory Committee does. We meet every month, and we discuss everything that goes on in this hospital, right from patient care, drugs, from everything else, and improvement. Now we are going ICT. All of those, we have discussed them there, and they are going on. So some of the things that are being done here, which is top-notch, they cannot be done anywhere else, in my view, as long as we live, that I look at what Debbie does and what our psychiatrists do here. I have nothing to say. I am happy. And that's why I say I have no problem in being admitted here. Thank you.